The strongest steel is forged by the hottest fires. 2020 was for us the hottest of fires, and indeed, like steel, we were forced to be flexible, to adapt and to embrace change. We could not have aptly predicted the extreme impact of the COVID-19 on NGOs and the way we work. 2020 started off great for UNNGOF. Our preparations for engagements with the 2021 electoral process were in high gear. Our policy and civil society strengthening engagements were promising, and our partners were ready and willing to engage. But the unprecedented outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic and the consequent countrywide lockdown rendered the bulk of our well-laid plans inactive. Even after the lockdown was lifted, many of our activities and engagements were limited as we sought to respect the standard operating procedures set out by the Ministry of Health. Transition, innovation, adaptation. These were the North Stars that guided us through the uncertain times. All our actions were therefore intentionally refocused on managing transition and ensuring the change over to new leadership was as flawless as possible. Much of our energies went into handling the fallout from the countrywide lockdown. We had to deal with restrictions on movement and large gatherings which have for long defined our operations as a sector. We had to adapt to previously non-mainstream ideas for the organization. Working at home was a concept we had only generally applied ourselves to as an institution, but the advent of the pandemic forced us to give this notion more than the cursory approach and put into place measures that would not only ensure that we continued working, but that would not negatively impact the work-life balance of our staff. Technology, which for us had always been more of a support function, suddenly took center stage in our lives, and as an organization, we had to embrace it and its different facets in ways and in speeds we had never thought of. The IT officer overnight became the most important staff for the organization, and our investments in IT bore a more in-depth examination. In adherence to the Ministry of Health standard operating procedures, we achieved a good number of our planned outcomes around elections and the training of civic mentors, SDGs and the 2030 agenda, compliance clinics and support visits for the regional advocacy networks, trainings on local fundraising and mobilizing support inter alia. In partnership with select regional advocacy networks in the regions, we undertook to tackle corona projects in 5 districts in the country. The aim was to increase communities' preparedness to fight the COVID-19 pandemic, enhance food security to vulnerable communities, enhance communities' awareness on the COVID-19 pandemic, and build knowledge and best practice on fighting the pandemic. In answer to the recurrent CSO health problem of founder syndrome and in a bid to champion best practice for others, UNNGOF wanted to be the blueprint for partners in as far as managing transition and nurturing leadership. Therefore, internal actions from as far back as 2016 culminated in the smooth change of leadership. We bade farewell to a long-standing executive director, Richard Sewachirianga, in June 2020, after 11.5 years of his strong leadership and tutelage. We welcomed our new executive director, Moses Isoba, in October 2020. Moses joins us with varied skills and expertise in the governance arena. We also added 2 new funders to our coffers, and armed with this new and different support from the Ford Foundation under the Build Grant and Giving for Change Alliance with support from the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs for philanthropy for development work, we are excited about reimagining sustainability and how development is done, leveraging on citizen-led actions. 2020 for us proved that for the stability of any organization, the building blocks are people, programs and partnerships. 2020 was not a walk in the park, and 2021 is sure to present a host of other challenges. However, we remain firmly wedded to delivering our mandate to the citizens of the country as creatively and innovatively as we can. We would not have done this without our friends, supporters, staff, donors, development partners, government ministries, departments and agencies, and other stakeholders. We credit this resilience to you all. We thank you for walking this journey with us.